welcome back to your weekly PlayStation show right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, where we round up all of the cloud gaming and PlayStation content for your listening or viewing pleasure. Whether it's here on YouTube or it's up there on the digital cloud, this is the place for you. We've got a great show lined up this week talking about all of the big game announcements from God of War to Skull and Bones, into some delays as well for other big titles that were due later on this year. Rockstar playing a bit dodgy with the Red Dead Redemption fans, and a little bit more news. But before we get into all that, let me introduce you to my two wonderful co-hosts for this week's show. Joining me once again, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. After 140 episodes on another show, yeah. it is nice to still have you along for the ride, my friend. Alongside with a brand new jazzed up microphone, our chaotic neutral, Rob. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Also.
I like how you said that more
joined
subtly.
Team Yeti.
Because of the microphone, you had a more subtle voice to that one. Welcome, gentlemen, welcome. We've got a great episode of Talking the PS lined up, but for everyone viewing out there, don't forget, give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, like our Let's Plays, live streams, first looks, and much, much more, all available on the channel for your listening or viewing pleasure. If you are a Helix Hero, one of the members of the channel, you also get exclusive access to some of our exclusive content. Richie, we did an amazing episode of CloudQuest this past week, which the lovely people can check out on free feeds now, but if they want this week's episode early, they can do that from as little as 99 pence. Can you remember what we spoke about on this week's show?
We're talking about, this is the show that went up on previously on Friday. We were talking about Tencent in cloud gaming. Turns out they already have a cloud gaming platform in China.
They do. Who knew? They've been going for just as long as Google Stadia and longer than Amazon Luna, and I didn't have a clue about them until we did some actual research for the show. Which again seems to be a normal thing nowadays. Normal thing. It's interesting to see how that lands. But in the world of blue things and PlayStation, we've got a lot to talk about. But before we do get into all the news, just like a little bit of an update about what you two are playing this past week. Rob, I'll throw it over to you first. Are we still down the rabbit hole of Fallout New Vegas, or have we tried something different?
Well, I'm kind of hopping between rabbit holes at the moment. None of it's PlayStation, so
that's
just
all
to
good.
box that off first. But it's been more Fallout, but it's also been lots of Hearts of Iron 4, which is kind of like a grand strategy game made by Paradox, which I get sucked into this kind of every couple of months, and then it consumes my life, and then it just goes away again. So I'm in that cycle now. But yeah, really enjoying them both.
It's one of those, yeah. They get your hooks in you for each kind of moment at a time.
I get that with things like Civ. Once in a while, I'll jump, for like maybe once a year, I'll jump in a game of Civ, and for like a week, I'll binge it every night, get home, continue my empire, and once I win, it's like, okay, I'm done with that now.
Yeah, and it's like 4 a.m. to sleep as well, where it's like...
Yeah, one more turn, it's fine.
Yeah.
What's really the difference between 1.5? What's the difference between half 1 and half 2?
And then the sun comes up.
Oh, I might as well just stay up now.
What's the difference between Tuesday and Wednesday? It all just plays into one after a while. My go-to games for that kind of thing, I have two in particular I always go back to. One's Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth. That's always one. And Roller Coaster Tycoon is my other one that I always just get that itch. It's usually after I've been to a theme park or been on a holiday that's been around them. I always have that urge to come back and just recreate what I've been enjoying for my vacation.
So as you walk around the theme park, you go, I can do better than this.
Usually. Although some people often die at my theme park, so maybe not
That's
that
fine.
well. Not that well. We'll just brush it
Realistic.
under the rug. Richie, what have you been playing this past week?
At the moment, I'm kind of just binging FIFA at the moment. As I was saying last week, I don't know if it was in the show Sounds of Stadia or CloudQuest, one of the shows that we do occasionally talk about. I've been trying to get back into the gym quite a lot recently, so that's kind of been my focus, like, of my free time at the moment. So something like FIFA's fitted in quite nice because I can play a game or two when I get home from work, go to the gym for like an hour or so, come home, get showered and whatnot. Then it's like an hour or two before I'm going to bed. So it's like I'm not having that big stretch of time for me to really allow a game to sink its teeth into me. Yeah. I'm still on the lookout for what is going to be the next game that like absorbs my life.
Yeah, there'll definitely be something on the horizon, especially with some of the news stories we're talking about later on today, because as we mentioned at the back of last week's show, PlayStation Plus is due some more announcements at some point for their mid-month tier, so the extra and premium tiers get more games, and we don't know what the cadence of that is yet, because it hasn't happened yet. This is the first full month globally of PlayStation Plus's new premium tiers and the breakdown. But we do know we're getting Stray, which is the one with the cat in the cyberpunk world, and that goes free later this month on the 19th of July, I believe. That's my next one I'm kind of holding off for now. But as it stands, I'm still chipping my way through Jurassic World Evolution 2. So not quite theme parks, but
I'm thinking about giving Crash 4 a go.
You should.
Because I like Crash. I don't love Crash though. So I think I said before, like, I'm happy it's come to Pro, so I'll try it. So this might be the time for Crash for me, because it is a bit more casual.
It is.
Than like a big story-driven game. So
yeah, I'd like to hear your input on it as well, because it's a Crash Bandicoot game made in the modern era. It's not the Insane Trilogy remake. It's not the originals. It's genuinely built from the ground up from scratch for 2020, I think it came out in. So it's actually a more modernised version, so I'd be intrigued to get your take on how it plays and performs. But plenty of games to talk about and play, and that's what we're here for. So without further delay, Richie, could you introduce us to the
properly prepared PlayStation perusing point, aka the news.
As we said, things are heating up for the news this week. All things on the PlayStation front are getting hotter and hotter. And finally, after much bereavement by the toxic people in the gaming community, the devs, no surprise, last week getting quite defensive over certain announcement. But our first story of the week, God of War Ragnarok, has landed its date. It has been confirmed for 2022. They've released a new trailer to go along with it, alongside collector's editions, and we now know it is set to arrive on the platform this year, November 9th, gentlemen. So after last week and all the shit the developers were getting, who knew that less than 7 days later they would have a big announcement, a big social blowout, marketing campaign, kickstarts. That's right, God of War Ragnarok. This is just kind of a laugh at the whole games industry as a whole, really, isn't it? That just as everyone starts to get to that fever point, it was due. They were always going to announce it a few days later. No surprise.
Yeah, I almost hope they decided to not announce it when they did, because of the backlash they were getting on Twitter and social media for not having announced it yet. It's like, you know what, we're going to make you wait another week. Mm-hmm. We were going to announce it tomorrow, but sodgers.
Yeah, it's a big irony, isn't it? The game is going to have a standard edition, as I mentioned, along with 2 collector's editions. Remember, this is one of the final cross-gen games, so this is also coming to PlayStation 4 and 5. Very interesting to see how the later in development these games get the actual difference in the two, as they iron out those creases and see the performance levels of each one. Of course, $10 less for the PS4 variant, and you can pay to have a digital upgrade if you've got that copy there. So interesting. I know a lot of people went out and I think bought Horizon Forbidden West earlier in the year for the cheaper version and just got the upgrade. This one is a paid upgrade. Was that a hand in the air? That was me. I was one of those people.
Yeah. Well, with Horizon Forbidden West, they messed up, I think, with the announcement. So I think they initially announced they'd both be the same price. I can't remember what it was.
You're right.
So they had to offer the upgrade for free. So when you bought the PS4 version, you got the PS5 version upgrade for free.
Yeah.
But the PS4 version was cheaper.
Yeah, I do remember that now. It was the initial announcement of all these slate of games before PS5 was a thing. They said it was going to be cross-gen. And then I think a few months before Horizon launched, they tried to announce a price difference in the 2 versions. And they got such a backlash that they said, hang on a minute, you announced these initially and said it was the same cost. And now, closer to release, you're telling me it's going to be $10 more for that version. And I think they had to walk it back practically within 24 hours. So everyone got a free upgrade.
It's too late for them to do it now, but they should have approached it like Microsoft have done with Smart Delivery, where effectively the game detects what console you're playing on and adjusts the option sliders that any PC gamer is used to seeing to tweak it to what suits your hardware. Yeah. So it's kind of a bad move, I think, by Sony to have different discrete versions of the game when it's effectively all they've done is in a dev menu just adjusted from sliders.
Well, we'll see about that. I for one, am the idiot who will pay £10 more to have the PS5 version purely out of the fact that on my shelf I do not want 10 white PS5 labels and then just have a random blue PS4 one marked in there. I'm that guy. So PS5.
That sounds worth £10.
Yeah, really. Just for the OCD nature of my own peace of mind. Yeah, right. £10 easily.
I probably will go for the PS5 version as well because it'll be the best version, even though
That
I
too.
do think,
Yeah.
despite what I've just said, that I think they should be literally the same game. It
Mhm.
should just be backwards compatible, and forwards compatible for that matter. But I will probably buy the better version
Certainly
for
should.
this game.
Yeah, I mean, we both have we have both disc versions of our PlayStation 5s, Richie. Rob, you're living up there in the clouds currently with your PlayStation front. Did these different versions do anything for you?
Not particularly. I can understand why they're doing it, because naturally,
Money.
like PlayStation 5s are still a bit hard to come by and things like that. But I'm definitely not going to be shelling out. I'm kind of beyond the phase of collectibles now.
I never have been in that phase. I don't.
Yeah, like
Some
I think
stuff
the
is fine. Like
I
I've
think
got
the
a
last
George
special edition I
Mask
got-
poster on the wall behind me, but that was from the 3DS port.
Yeah,
But-
the last special edition thing I got was GTA 4, and it was the one where it has the special kind of lockbox included in it, and I still have that lockbox now, which I used to keep all my important documents in.
No one will think
I've
to
got
look
Kyogo
inside
on
a
the
video game box.
Yeah, but that's the last one I've had, and I think it's going to be the last one I ever have.
Yeah, I'm currently in the middle of like weaning myself. Like, you guys know what my house is like. I'm in the middle of trying to wean it off. We got an extension 2 years ago now, and like that gave me more room, which I think gives you that urge, like, oh, I need to fill it out with other things. And I've consciously made a decision now. I'm currently in the midst of selling an Assassin's Creed statue. You know when you kind of just fall out of favour of them, and I don't need them. But you know, you never know. It can always get you. But speaking of collector's editions and collectibles, we should also mention the 2 additional versions that they announced. So the collector's edition itself, there's a video out where they actually get the mocap actor Ryan Hurst, who does Thor, and one of the development team to basically run down what you get inside. And there's the Jotunheim edition and the collector's edition. Both come in a big physical box. If you remember from God of War 1, you know when you go to the big chest cabinets, which shows you the mythology of Norse, and it shows you kind of all the gods and I think you collect pieces, or you had to find 8 cabinets throughout the game to kind of unlock the whole true history of what was happening. It's encased in that, in a cardboard kind of solid box. They come with 2 little replica statues, the Veneer twins, in like a little wooden set. You get a dice set with it. They've also gone through, you get, I think in the Jotunheim edition, you get a cloth map of the 9 realms. You get a ring of some sort. You get vinyl tracked, a 7-inch vinyl with 2 tracks from the composer, and you get steelbooks in both of them. Annoyingly enough, though, no discs. You get a digital copy code and a steelbook box for a disc, but no disc in both versions. That's weird, right?
This doesn't kind of sit with me, because I would assume the people who want the collectibles also want to collect the physical game. I mean, I'm just not interested in kind of having discs and things like that, but it seems like a mismatch right there.
Yeah.
I assume it's just this money-saving thing for them, because giving you the disc will cost them more, because they have to physically produce the disc.
Yes, but you've got to imagine they're printing millions of these physical copies still, even in a digital world we're leading towards. Can you not spare one disc for the 100 odd pound collector's edition?
I mean, it
I
gets
would have
down to
thought
pennies
so.
at the scale at what they're kind of manufacturing, right?
Honestly, I think for stuff like this, they typically, when they do give you the disc and they've got a steelbook, they don't even put the disc in the steelbook. They just give you, here's the game in its normal packaging, here's the steelbook case.
Yeah.
You deal with it.
I have noticed sometimes this happens with some of the Ubisoft collectibles, and sometimes I think it's usually regional, so they don't give you the actual disc copy so they can save on, they just give you the code, therefore you get a download in your region of choice, so they can ship this out across the world without specifying a language or anything like that.
Yeah, it's all the physical distribution of stuff. It's like,
exactly.
To be fair, I also think part of it is they want to encourage you to go into the more digital space, because one of the reason I have the disc version is because physical games, the price depreciates quite rapidly. So if you don't need a game day and date, wait 6 months, you can usually get like £20-30 off on the physical version. The digital version, it can be it's all entirely up to Sony how that is priced. So it's not like Amazon just going in the warehouse and going, we've got loads of these, we need to get rid of them.
Yeah, one of the things I've failed to actually mention in the breakdown of these 2 collector's editions actually is it comes with a giant replica of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer as well. So forget the dice and the little statues and your no disc and your virtual voucher. The biggest sizable thing in the box, I've only realised now I'm watching the actual trailer myself, is it comes with a replica of Thor's hammer in there as well, with some heft and weight to it. So that's kind of the shining, put on your shelf star of this whole set. So quite a lot.
Imagine the cost of Amazon shipping that to you.
Oh yeah.
If it's like,
it's a big boy. It's got a lot of stuff in there. But again, I guess if you are a huge fan, like I got the, not collector's edition, I got whatever version of the original God of War that comes with like the steelbook, the art book. I think I got something to do with the soundtrack as well. And that came, again, with a disc. But as I'm getting older, and as we said it before, this particular story, starting to wean myself off paying the big bucks for collector's editions there. Even the base edition, £70, $70 on its own. So, pinch the pennies.
The problem for me is, with a collector's edition I would only want a collector's edition of a game that I've absolutely adored. Mm-hmm. But you don't know that till you play the game.
Yeah, it's kind of jumping in at the deep end, just hoping it's going to be worthwhile, and you're not going to die a horrible wet death.
Often you're paying like twice the price for what is largely load of tat in a lot of cases. I mean, the hammer looks pretty cool in this case. This actually looks like decent stuff. But sometimes I've seen like collector's edition statues and stuff. I've looked at it and gone, that doesn't even look that good, to be honest.
Yeah, it's sometimes far.
I'm skeptical. Yeah, I mean, it's each to their own.
But you know what?
I'm into gaming not for the loot, but for the game.
That's true. The moment you throw that replica and it doesn't return to your hand, kind of disappointed. Or if everyone else in your house who just visits can pick it up, you're like, oh, it's not quite the same.
It's everyone's worthy. Damn it!
If you throw it, you probably ruined the resale value.
Oh yeah, most certainly.
It's a big dent inside of it.
But gentlemen, November 9th, it is coming this year. I can't wait. God of War is undoubtedly one of the best games of all time. Have we all played it? I know I have. Richie?
Yeah.
So I can't wait for this one. It's been not even a long time coming. It's probably about the right development cycle. But it has felt like Sony didn't have much in the pipeline for the back end of this year, because everyone, I think, had written Ragnarok off for potentially being pushed back. And then with the Last of Us remake, which I told you I was getting, and then Ragnarok as well, and a couple of other things we're going to talk about later on today. The winter season is definitely hyping up the more the weeks tick over as we get closer to the end of summer. God of War Ragnarok, finally nice to see. You can now leave those developers alone. All you pesky people out there have been torturing them. November 9th, not too long to wait. Whichever version you do go for, I can't wait to play it on the good old PlayStation 5.
I feel sorry for Ubisoft. The dates.
Well, we're moving on to that next story of the week. Setting sail, dropping anchor, whichever pirate pun you want to drop in here. Ubisoft announced last week that they were going to be doing a showcase for their long-suffering game, Skull and Bones. That's been in development hell for the last few years. Announced back at E3 2017, the game has finally had its first public showcase in many, many years. They showed off a visual cinematic trailer alongside some gameplay and another breakdown of how the vision has came to light. Within that, we also got an announced date. It is coming this year, November 8th. So that is one day before the previously mentioned God of War Ragnarok drops on multiple platforms, of course. So it's not beholden just to PlayStation. Skull and Bones, we now know, takes place in the waters of the Indian Ocean during what was known as the Golden Age of Piracy. The players start on a marooned island, and they have to work to build their reputation, known as infamy within the game. And in order to become the most feared pirate on the high seas, you essentially need to take on quests, challenges, fight people out on the open oceans, and basically just do what you can to be the ultimate pirate. Gentlemen, Richie, I'll throw it over to you first. We've seen more about what the game entails now. We've got a date for it, which means finally it's no longer just a rumour or if it's been cancelled or not. Did the showcase this week do anything for you to get you more excited?
No.
No.
I'm going to be honest. Games as a service have to do a lot to get me excited, because I play games because I like to get immersed in that world and in the story and in the characters and the lore. Games as a service stuff typically focus around features that take you out of that, like the social elements. And a big part of this presentation was them really, really, really encouraging you to play with other people. Yeah. And it's just like, that's just not what I want in a game, to be honest. They did say one of the things I am happy about is there's opt into PvP servers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just want to go about your own business, play the game your own way, you don't have to deal with people griefing you all the time. Because I imagine the PvP servers are going to be absolute hell.
Yeah, someone just comes into your game and just attacks your ship en masse while you're just trying to collect some shark skins or something from around the area.
A big thing they're focused on is the need, like, you start with your small ship and you need to do contracts and collect resources to craft better ships and weapons and stuff. But other players and the NPC privateers will interrupt you and attack you and potentially sink your ship, meaning you lose your resources.
Mm-hmm.
So you can imagine. So griefing is basically built into the game, on a PvP level. That's just part of what the game is.
Yeah.
So that just sounds like hell to me.
That's a pirate's life.
I'm sure there'll be some DLC. Yeah, there'll be some DLC you can buy, which gives you the edge, which you don't.
Yeah, well, there will be obviously the typical Ubisoft coin points. I'm sure there's a massive pre-order selection. The thing for me which got me is the trailer looked really hype. It built it up. It shows a real great pirate tale. Again, I'm sure everyone's a fan of Pirates of the Caribbean out there. Who doesn't want to live that kind of pirate plundering and pillaging life out on the open waters? And they announced probably a year or so ago they were going to take on some feedback, and they knew this was built on the bones of Black Flag. And Richie, we theorised many other times on the Sounds of Stadia podcast that this should just be a spin-off like Pirates Creed. It should be Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but forget all the Templar shit. It's just about being a pirate.
We were talking in our Discord earlier today, and I was kind of saying that actually what I would love is a Pirates Creed game. It's set in the same world as Assassin's Creed, but the focus isn't around Assassins versus Templar. There can be references to them and stuff, but it pads out the world, but is generally a single player. It's basically Assassin's Creed. It's just basically a modern Black Flag that isn't about Assassins and Templars and Abstergo, and it's just like, you know what, other things are happening in the world as well.
Yeah, I completely.
But that's not what this game is. So
yeah, it was actually quite disheartening when I was watching through the content, because they got to the gameplay element and they handed it over to some streamers, I think, to talk us through some of the basics of it, and it looks fun at its core. It's one of those games I look at and I think, I know if I played it, I would have fun. If the three of us jumped in, we'd have a laugh, we'd go pillage, we'd destroy some stuff, we'd get attacked.
100% we're streaming this on Helix Cloud Games YouTube channel. That is definitely going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a games as a service player, so it's not going to suck me in. So it'll be like probably November. We'll probably get Ubisoft Plus for a month, and we might do a couple of streams.
Yeah.
But I will almost certainly only be playing on camera.
Yeah, the biggest thing what kind of did for me is you've got this rich world that they've built out, and after all the feedback and the stuff they've took on board over the last 7 years now, you've got this rich world, and I don't feel like it's shown me anything to really make me want to hang out in it. You can't, by the looks of it, you cannot get off your ship. There's no hand-to-hand combat. It's all done with on your ship.
You can get off in your ship when you're docked at certain ports, and you can board other ships.
Because it's in first person from what I've seen. You can have mutinies, but if it's all just quests and infamy, what's the end goal in that? Like, just being number one? I feel like if it had a story. Yeah.
It takes me back to my issue with Marvel's Avengers, where it just feels like they've got the grind there in the games of service, but they haven't got the goal. Why?
Yeah, I think it's
is the end game? Why do I need to level up my ship? Why do I need to buy all this better gear? Why do I need to spend my time becoming this infamous pirate? What is the objective other than just to exist in this world?
I think it's going to be a case where lots of people check it out initially, and then I have this
go back to Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, I have an awful feeling it's going to just die. The community is going to die very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I think there will be a decent player base for a while, actually, because I think it does look like a decent game. It's just a game that's very much, I'm looking at it and going, this is not for me.
Yeah.
This is a game for people who do like that, just do like that grind. That's what they want from the game. They just want to jump in, stick a headset on with a couple of their friends, and just play, and that's what they do for a couple of hours a night.
Yeah.
But that's not how I approach games at all, so it's just...
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because this is a £70 fully priced game as well, so it's asking you to basically put your money right down. Obviously, Ubisoft Plus alleviates that to some degree. You sign up for a month, you get the game for 30 days, with the full gold edition with all its skull and crossbones, I guess. But Yeah, it's weird because the trailer makes it look as though it could be really story focused. You start off as this guy, you get washed up on an island, you've got to, I guess, fight to survive, find some food, and then you stumble your way onto a pirate's kind of hub world. And from there, you get your little ship, you go and upgrade it, you go catch, you take some contracts on to make some money. And that would be great if it had, I feel like if it just had some kind of campaign to back it up. And as you said, Richie, when you reach your height of infamy, that's when you're ready to take on the final boss or the Lord Pirate who's currently overrunning it, and you want to usurp him and take his place. But at the moment, if it's just Pirate Man 578 out on the seas has got like all the cannons and stuff that you don't have because you used Ubisoft coins to buy them, it kind of takes away from the dream of being a pirate, right?
And you can guarantee if you're on a PvP server, someone who's bought the Deluxe Edition, got the best ship right off the gate, is just going to camp outside, just in like the PvP area, just outside the first town, just destroy all the newbies.
I'm sure they have contingencies against that to some degree. But if you're going to go PvP, then that's the
contingencies
risk, right?
don't go on the PvP server, but then you're missing a big part of what the experience is. So it's like, but that's multiplayer games. Anyway, I used to have that when I used to play World of Warcraft, but you would have people just like high level people just kill people just starting out, just cause to ruin other people's experience. Well, but I don't know. It's just it doesn't look like a game for me. It's one of them. When it comes to Assassin's Creed, what I want them to do with that franchise is stop trying to just make a massive world as big as possible and fill it with nothing and miscellaneous quests of miscellaneous NPC gives you a task to go to kill random bandits in bland location. I want them to condense the world and the story and get a bit more cadence to the story. My biggest problem with Assassin's Creed is the main through quest line often loses its pacing because the game's trying to give you too much other crap to do. It's not focused enough. And this seems to literally went the opposite direction. So
yeah, there's nothing. Again, I'm sure there's something in it. I wouldn't be surprised if the game reviews quite well because it's again, it looks gorgeous. Yeah. It plays well. It's just I feel like it took the best things from
very
Black Flag.
Critical, but it ultimately comes down to this game is not for me, rather than I think this is bad. Yeah.
It's I think it's definitely suffered for how long it's took to get it out. It's almost got to a point where even the people who were interested in it have now been soured to a point because it's took so long that now what's part of the big reveal in the showcase, they're kind of just like, is that it? Is that all you've got after 7 years? Because it doesn't look too different to Black Flag that I was playing on my PS3 back in 2013, quite frankly.
That's the issue for me now. I'm paying like 70 whatever for a game that's been floating around too long for me to think it's going to have like the quality I associate with like a full price game.
It's got to blow Sea of Thieves out the water for me. Sea of Thieves is the big milestone. If it doesn't, if it is as good as Sea of Thieves, I think it's doomed to failure. It has to be better significantly because Sea of Thieves is available on Game Pass, which means that you can play it anywhere for a small subscription fee.
The biggest thing for me to round out this one is if in all the reviews it reviews well, but I feel like a lot of reviews are going to end with
it's going to be an 8.
If you want a great pirate game, go play Black Flag, which will be probably true in a lot of regards. Like if I want to play a pirate game now, I know what Black Flag's about. It will have elements of this game, but it will have a story and a narrative where I can run around on any island I jump out my boat and dive into. I can explore the sea, I can explore the island, there's a story there, I can still level up, I can still do my ship up. Then what's this game doing differently?
Prediction right here, Metacritic rating, when this game comes out, it's going to be in the high 7s, low 8s out of 10. Which means it's going to be absolutely fine, but is that enough to drive a critical mass of players that a live service game needs? That's when true. It's literally coming out a day before God of War Ragnarok, which will harm it. Yeah. Because now people have got a financial decision to make. Well, at least PlayStation fans. Do I buy Ragnarok or do I buy Sea of Thieves? And I bet you most of our audience are going Ragnarok first.
I'd be surprised if that wasn't like a 9-1 split.
I would say your audience would be probably the opposite way around, admittedly, but this is talking the PS, not Sounds of Stadia.
That's true. I agree. That would be me. I don't have £140 spare, but if I can scrape together 70, then I'm definitely 100% putting that on Ragnarok instead.
It's Ubisoft. This is, as I said, for me, this is Ubisoft Plus. I'll get a month of Ubisoft Plus probably in November, and we'll do some Ubisoft streams, play a bit more of Riders Republic, some obviously some Skull and Bones, maybe some
maybe some Black Flag,
Tom Clancy stuff, but maybe Black Flag. But yeah.
Well, one game we certainly won't be playing this November, gentlemen, moving on to our third story of the week, is Forspoken. So Square Enix exclusive PlayStation 5 and PC title that's been shown off quite extensively over the last 2 years now. Was originally intended for the 11th of October this year. It's now been moved back to January the 24th, 2023, and a spokeswoman for Square Enix actually came out and said it was a strategic decision. So reading from the full blog over on Twitter, and I quote, "As a result of ongoing discussions with key partners, we've made the strategic decision to move the launch date of Forspoken to January 24th. All game elements are now complete, and the development is in its final phase of polishing. We would like to thank you all for your continued support and patience on this journey. Your excitement for the game inspires us every day, and we cannot wait to share more about Forspoken with you later this summer." So, interestingly, we've got God of War suddenly gets its date. Skull and Bones gets its date. We know The Last of Us now is coming out in September, in and amongst whatever the rest of the competition is doing. And one of Sony's big exclusives they've been lining up for this autumn is now coming out in January. Rob, I'll throw this over to you. Is this a smart strategic decision, or is this going to end up being worse for wear in the long run?
It's a bit of a weird way to phrase that, to say strategic decision. I don't want to kind of put words in the mouth. I'm trying to figure out if they've got kind of a bit nervous about the competition around that time. They're waiting until after Christmas when potentially more people have a PS5, after the more people have hardware maybe. But for a game that's, by their description, very, very kind of essentially finished and polished, I'm not sure what the logic is in missing kind of the Christmas rush period. That's my kind of
Do you know what I
big question mark.
Forspoken is a Sony exclusive, as is God of War Ragnarok, and I can tell you now, I think there's a lot more hype and interest in Ragnarok. So I think
doubtless, yeah.
I think they're just moving out the way of Ragnarok. If they come out alongside Ragnarok, they'll lose the mind share, the press coverage, because everyone's also going to be all eyes on God of War. Coming out in 2.5 months later.
In January, it puts them in like an economic dead zone when nobody has money because it's all been spent over Christmas.
You're right, but it's the end. It's like a week from the end of January, and Horizon Zero Dawn came out in February. I think Breath of the Wild came out in February, and these games have sold.
Yeah,
so I don't think January is as much as a dead zone as it used to be traditionally for games.
Yeah, the industry's evolved to a point where gamers are happy to spend money whenever and wherever. And I think the March-April time has become the new lucrative spot. We saw that with Dying Light as well. The first Dying Light game did huge numbers.
I do expect you'll see a spike in the first week of February in sales of this game. But coming out, I think by the 24th of January, you have that press coverage leading up to that. Then you've got a week of the game being out before I think most people go out and buy it. So they've probably been. So you almost have that thing where people keep hearing about this game, wanting to try it, if assuming it's fantastic, and they've got that week worth of anticipation before they get paid to go, okay, now I can go get it.
Yeah.
So it might actually even work in that sort of sense, but
yeah, I mean, with game development nowadays, it's giving them, if it is finished as they say, you know what, another 6 months or so of polish couldn't hurt it at all. It's very rare, I think, as a dev studio, you get that much extra time just handed to you on a plate. So I hope that does mean they can kind of fine tune it to be an absolute stellar hit.
You know what?
We've got to imagine if Cyberpunk had that.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Cyberpunk needed 12 months, not 6.
And the rest.
Yeah, but it would only been half the disaster that it was.
I've got a feeling that this was either scheduled initially for end of August, start of November time, and when they've been talking, this is why I'm so strongly believe that this is literally trying to get out of the way of Ragnarok, talking to strategic decision when they're talking to partners. It just feels like they've had a word. When's Ragnarok coming out? It's like, ooh, for the sake of this game, let's move it.
Yeah, and again, that's not factoring.
And I'm glad. I'm actually glad because I want to play both of these games. So it means I'm going to pick Ragnarok up first in November, and come January I'll pick up Forspoken.
Yeah, and then let's not forget as well everybody else. So your Call of Duty is going to be out there, and your new FIFA game is going to be out there, and all of your third-party titles are going to be dropping in and around that Christmas period. Nintendo probably have something up their sleeve, so your attention is pulled every direction. And like you said, back to financials and money, not everyone might have that cash spare if they're out buying Christmas presents, they're prepping for like holidays, work parties and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a smart move. It does mean PlayStation 5 and Square Enix have a very stacked 2023 as it stands. So that means they'll be kicking off the year with Forspoken, and then they've got Final Fantasy 16 in the summer apparently, and then they're going to be ending with Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth Part 2 in the winter. So that's pretty much every quadrant of next year you're getting some Square Enix juicy goodness, as it would seem. Richie, where do you said you're interested in Forspoken. What is it that's got you intrigued? Is it the aesthetics? Is it the visuals? Is it the gameplay? This
is a game where on Sound of Stadia, when we've talked about it and when we watched Square Enix press conference, I always kept forgetting about, but the more I've seen of it, I think it just looks like a really cool, nice stylized action game. It's got some weird, like, the particle effects just absolutely stunning. The gameplay looks fast, and I like an action RPG.
Yeah, it strikes me as Final Fantasy meets Infamous almost.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah, although Final Fantasies are trending towards more action-focused rather than turn-based nowadays. But I just think this looks like it could be an absolute... As long as the story holds up. I mean, I'm watching the trailer now, and she was just surfing on, like, a cloud of light, and it looks fun.
Yeah,
and Square Enix know what they're doing with RPGs, so I've got faith in this game.
Good, interesting. Yeah, my interest has been building slowly for it, and I think actually pushing it back into a quieter time of the year does make me more inclined to want to play it.
Yeah.
Saying as long as I've got everything out off the slate from Christmas still, I'm not kind of just hanging on into the new year. But yeah, a little bit longer to wait for Forspoken, but not too long at least. They haven't just given it a random 2023 date. They've actually locked it in for January 24th.
It was originally locked in for October the 11th, 2022, so it was about a month before Ragnarok.
Yeah. So, interesting to see. I'll tell you what we will have to wait a long time for, though, gentlemen, and that is Grand Theft Auto 6. Our next story of the week comes from Rockstar Games. They are apparently they've shelved plans for a remake of not only Red Dead Redemption, but also Grand Theft Auto 4. So, Rob, you could have got your lockbox out there and relive the old days.
Yeah, maybe.
To focus on the upcoming Grand Theft Auto 6 that they have finally confirmed is deep in development. And this is because, rumoured, after the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition, which came out with negative reviews from both critics and fans alike, it got panned upon launch for being just buggy and glitchy and not a complete Definitive Edition at all. And then they removed the original games and...
They remastered the game and made it worse.
Yeah, so essentially these remasters were of these classic games were on the table a few years ago, but Rockstar chose not to proceed with the projects in mind. Which kind of sucks, really, I think, all things said and done. It's crazy how a company like Rockstar, with all the infinite funding they have, couldn't put out another project, and then saying that it's because of the poor reception of this remaster trilogy. It's their own damn fault for not making that good in the first place.
That reception was 100% deserved. I know, like, you can call kind of certain elements of the gaming community toxic, but that reaction to the trilogy was 100% justified.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a remaster of a game. The game already exists. All you have to do, your job is literally to make it better. That is the point of a remaster, and you made it worse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, you removed the working versions as well, so people couldn't buy them. So that is just you've got rid of games that were fine to replace them with games that were not, and now you're using them as an excuse for not remastering 4. I actually think focusing on 6 rather than a remaster 4 is the right decision, just not for the reasons they're saying.
I think Rockstar kind of have this invincible air about them, but if you look at the Red Dead Redemption 2, whilst it wasn't my kind of style of game which I enjoyed, I can appreciate the achievement for that came out of it. The Red Dead Online, that kind of died and didn't really get the focus it needed, so that was a bit of a misfire. And then you had obviously the disaster of kind of the trilogy. Like, it needs a win with GTA 6, and that's probably the best chance for it, I think.
Yeah, well, Grand Theft Auto...
Not that doing any danger.
Yeah, I was going to say, Grand Theft Auto is very much their break glass in case of... They've milked Grand Theft Auto 5, and they will continue to do it for decades to come, no doubt, but eventually, you know fine well that when GTA 6 drops, it's going to be the highest selling game of probably the last 10 years. With like, it's going to be the most copies, everyone's going to be playing it, I'll buy it. Just because it's just to be in... Like, I remember when the original one, 5 came out, it was just, you had to have it to be in pop culture, like to talk about with your friends. You had to go and buy it. And they'll have the same wave effect. But you're right, Rob. They've got that kind of like bulletproof nature about them where they can't do any wrong. And we're starting to see cracks showing a little bit. And I think patience with how long they are taking to get stuff out. And one of the other threads to this story coming out the same news article this week is they've also confirmed not only are they not pursuing these remakes for GTA 4 and the original Red Dead Redemption, but they're also, as they shift development to Grand Theft Auto 6, Red Dead Online, as you mentioned, is basically going to be put into a low maintenance mode, which is going to have repeat events, repeat missions, and essentially probably just slowly fizzle away into that sunset. Yeah, which is a shame. I don't think
Red Dead Online's been... I would say it's a success for them, but I don't think it's been a success when you compare it to GTA 5 Online, which I think is a mistake. I think it's a mistake if they're using GTA 5 Online as a yardstick, because it's... That game is done, the online component of that game has performed like no one would ever anticipate it to have done. I think GTA 6 is going to be a slam dunk for them. I think they know what they're doing with Grand Theft Auto. It will have an online, whether it's a continuation of 5's online or something new, but they know what they're doing in that online space to keep it going well and making a lot of money. So I have absolutely no worries about 6.
Yeah, I would like to see them visit some of their old franchises. I don't know if anybody played the Warriors game.
Do you feel like they need to expand, like the size of their teams?
I'm not necessarily expand, but I think everyone's kind of like the Red Dead story is kind of...
If they can't keep Red Dead Online going as well as working on GTA 6, that feels like... And then they've got a lot of dormant franchises that they own. It feels like they need to get some more people, maybe open a new studio or two. Maybe open a studio and go, right, you guys are going to focus on online-only content, so your GTA 5 Online, your Red Dead Online, while the other guys could start working on the single-player stuff.
They could also buy someone.
I'd love to see a remaster of the Warriors. The remaster of the that was a superb... was it PlayStation 2?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, PlayStation 2. Yeah. And
Bully as well received.
Which one?
Bully,
yes, but it's got some bad connotations in 2022 for a game that literally centers around bullying. It doesn't...
Yeah, you can rework it.
Yeah, they can definitely do something. I think, again, they probably had plans for it, but you're right. It's again, in the amount of money they have, it's surprising they can't expand by going out and acquiring studios like everyone else seems to be doing in today's world. But yeah, just to wrap up on the Rockstar Red Dead Redemption, the prominent fan-run Twitter account Red Dead News, their reaction to this kind of low-maintenance version of Red Dead Online was, and I quote, "Rockstar's management of Red Dead Online has been a series of failures, from the botched implementation of premium currency and content passes to game-breaking bugs that still exist and complete lack of protection for PC players against modders. That's without mentioning the misleading content promises and lack of communication outside of those. Today's announcement is news Rockstar could have shared in February after the next GTA announcement. Why keep fans waiting? It's poor form." So yeah, it just seems like Red Dead fans just got a bad run of it. They actually held an in-game, or they're arranging an in-game funeral for the game this week. I don't know if you guys saw that. They're all going to gather around a campfire, I'm sure, and share some booze and share their love stories of Red Dead Online.
I like stuff like that, but it feels a bit premature because they're not switching off the servers yet.
Yeah, but they've kind of announced they're doing sweet FA with it from now on. Although, what is always missing a shock, and it always gets me in Grand Theft Auto how it's not been a thing. How is the Red Dead Undead Nightmare not a thing for the sequel? How did they not follow up on the amazing success that Undead Nightmare had with the fact that game was so good, like standalone as well, not just like as an add-on. I can't believe like Red Dead Online hasn't had like a zombie week for Halloween when the whole online world gets corrupted and cursed, and you just have to go about and kill zombies for a change. It's like a big fan event. Like,
this is the thing. I think with persistent online stuff, seasonal content is great because every year you can pull up the same content again. People go, "Oh, I really loved that last year. Let's do it again."
Yeah. Destiny do it every single year, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. You can make small tweaks to things, but it's like you're not having to build everything every year from the ground up, and it nicely refreshes the game at critical points throughout the year as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's certainly a shame. I would have definitely liked to see Red Dead made in the Red Dead 2 engine. Of course, anyone who's played Red Dead Redemption 2, you get a little sneak peek of what Red Dead 1 could have looked like further in the story through a flashback of sorts. And GTA 4, fantastic game. Liberty City in all its it's like fully rendered glory compared to the original Grand Theft Auto 3 game. But if the rumours are true about GTA 6, it's going to be an amalgamation of San Andreas, Vice City, and Liberty City all on one map, and that's going to be the approach to it, and that's how they're going to have online and everything just be continuing, and they're going to add new counties and stuff on as time goes by, which the success of GTA Online seems to be the smart choice, I guess, just linking all three of their games up together in one modern, futuristic looking world. But we'll find more about that, no doubt, in the future. Moving on to the next story, we got a quick update from Ubisoft. We theorised a few weeks ago now, actually, about them having an event. They were announced for Gamescom, which we thought was going to be their big blowout for the end of summer. It turns out, gentlemen, they actually are back with a Ubisoft Forward. September 10th, 12 p.m. Pacific time and 9 p.m. Central European time. We are getting our first Ubisoft Forward of the year. So 9 months into the year, they finally decided to showcase one. I guess we're going to have a mixed... Now we know Skull and Bones is imminent. We know there's going to be an Assassin's Creed announcement in September. Anything else you expect to see from this Ubisoft Forward, Richie? Now we know it's a standalone event from Gamescom. What do you think they're going to focus on?
I mean, if Skull and Bones and Assassin's Creed are off, there's some of the Tom Clancy or almost Tom Clancy stuff, like maybe things like X-Defiant get a showing. There's always Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, that's
it's always a potential. Prince of Persia is well off in the distance. It won't be there. I'd be surprised if it was anyway. Maybe something new. Maybe something with the. I was about to say something with the rabbits, but they've just brought out a game, haven't they?
That was an older title, though.
Yeah, wasn't it an older title that was in China that's being brought over to the West?
Yeah, it was Party of Legends was in China, then got a global release, and then you've got the Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, I think, is due out later this year as well. Actually, if you are a Nintendo Online subscriber, you can actually claim Mario Rabbids, the first game, for free right now. Just FYI, any Switch players out there.
So I really don't know. I think there'll probably be things like Division 2, because we know more information about that as we're due for, so I think Division 2 will be there. I reckon X-Defiant will be there. Maybe, what was the one that came out earlier in the year? I'm blanking on...
Roller Champions?
No, not Roller Champions. There might be Roller Champions there.
Although that seems to have gone really quiet. Roller Champions. We know Hyperscape died this year. Yeah, that was put out to pasture.
The Division 2, the
Heartlands?
Rainbow Six... Heartlands, will probably be there, I reckon. The spin-off of Rainbow Six Siege, what was it called?
Extraction?
God, kick myself. Extraction, yeah. I think maybe some more Extraction content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they need to do something.
So yeah, I think it'll be like a Tom Clancy focused thing. Maybe with one or two other bits, but I just don't know. Outside of Tom Clancy, Rabbids and Assassin's Creed, what do they really have got at the moment?
I would expect...
I'm surprised maybe Rayman.
Yeah, Rayman's been dormant for a while. I'd like to see a new IP, if I'm being honest. Like, just something actually fresh and new that isn't dug out of Tom Clancy's grave would be nice to see.
With the way Ubisoft are going, any new IP will probably be an online persistent world or multiplayer experience.
Unfortunately. There must be something. There must be some franchise out there that you can snap up the rights to. We've got the Star Wars game. From Massive.
Yeah, maybe
that's the Division team. They've been sitting on that one for 2 or so years now. They've been working on it, so they might have something to reveal, which would be nice to see. Maybe a bit early, but maybe a quick teaser or something, or maybe the name of the game I would take at this point, with a couple sound effects in the background.
Yeah, that might be one that's worth dropping in. You're not going to get a lot of info, but here's a reminder that we're working on this game. We'll see you at Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah, and what else was I going to say? There's also Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is due out this year.
That'll be the big one, I reckon. That'll be the big focus. Avatar.
Avatar.
Because if we're expecting this to... it's Ubisoft, so it'll probably come out the same day as Skull and Bones, so it cannibalizes their own games.
Yeah.
So if we're expecting this... Because actually that November is kind of where I was thinking Avatar would drop.
Yeah,
So I make that as a joke, but is it really a joke?
Yeah, Avatar will be out the same week as Skull and Bones.
And mid-September forward, so either if it's going to be Avatar, then Avatar I reckon will be October, November, or otherwise Avatar would have been announced before. So I don't know if I think Avatar's probably locked in for November. Thinking about it.
Yeah, well, they said they want it
Because
out.
otherwise that forward might say August or even July.
Remember, they are at
September.
Gamescom, so they could showcase quite a lot there and maybe save the juiciest stuff for their own show. Rob, where do you sit with Avatar, with this James Cameron sequel? Is it too late for them to make their 3-movie quadrilogy that they're working on now?
I'm passionately anti-Avatar. I didn't like the hype it got, and the story wasn't original and whatever. It does nothing for me, the entire franchise, so there's not a lot for me to look forward to. That sounds quite depressing, but
in life,
I'm not I'm not looking forward to anything from Ubisoft. Again. Yeah, so I don't know.
Would a new IP probably be the most exciting thing for them to show for you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, new IPs are like... Do you remember when you were younger and a new IP was basically every other month it seemed?
Yeah.
And now it just doesn't seem to happen at the same rate, which is... I get, games take more money to make and that's fine, but I think there's a lot of... Not laziness on the side of the developers, but laziness from a business perspective to just rely on kind of putting out more IPs.
They make it sometimes too safe. This IP is making a lot of money. Keep pushing this until it stops making money.
Yeah, and I think Ubisoft take that to another level where games just feel too similar to each other, and that's
I think
that's why I'm not particularly.
It definitely worked for them for a moment in time when they were making games. Obviously, you can get them out faster if you're sharing assets and stuff. But I think the world is so connected now. You can see just the one-for-one comparisons of almost anything and everything that you use, and then it does start to feel a bit samey when you've got multiple titles every year with the same color palette, the same kind of font style. It's all linked up to the Ubisoft servers.
Similar mechanics. Yeah. I've always felt why I always say Ubisoft games, they're almost guaranteed to be a 7 or 8 out of 10 and rarely push beyond that. It's just to feel like they're off a production line.
Yeah.
They don't feel like a piece of art. They just feel like he's a produced piece of entertainment content for you to consume, rather than we have a cool vision for what we want to do with this game. And that's where we go back to God of War. That's what made God of War stand out, where the other ones were just high action, isometric down action games, a bit over the top, and they were funny enough. With God of War 2016, was it 2016?
2019.
2019, yeah, the last God of War, the one before Ragnarok. That was kind of, we've got a real solid vision for the story we want to tell, and it's give you such that emotional drive through it, and the gameplay mechanics paired up so well with the story and how it was told. It truly is a piece of art where Ubisoft games go, this is funny enough.
Yeah, this'll do.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll find out some more details on new games, whether that be Rayman, Star Wars, or something else.
Bring it on.
Yeah, they need to do. I think they must know they need to do something different now. So exciting things to see what they've got.
They do. That's why they're going in a direction I wish they weren't.
Well, again, you can always change direction.
It is profitable, and a lot of people do like games as a service stuff. So.
But then undoubtedly Valhalla is their best-selling one of all time, and that's a single-player campaign for the most part. So. Objection to the rule. But I tell you what, if you're speaking of new IP, why not go back to a story that's literally almost 100-year-old with The Lord of the Rings, because we also got the news this last week that The Lord of the Rings Gollum will be arriving on PlayStation 5 September the 1st. And to get your eyes around it, gentlemen, they've revealed some new gameplay footage that shows Gollum using stealth mechanics And he apparently, from the press release, is the most misunderstood creature of all of Middle-earth. Of course, this is not Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. We should point out that now. The voice acting is not quite Andy Serkis. But if you can get over that, the gameplay shows us some interesting fights between orcs, some decision-making similar to the Telltale games to tell a story. Beautiful vistas across Middle-earth. And more importantly, Gollum adapting and moving to evade enemies on his little adventure, taking place between the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Rob, I'll throw it over to you. I remember the first Lord of the Rings Fellowship game when that came out on PS2, and it wasn't Peter Jackson's game, and it was very odd seeing the story told in that kind of art style. And then we got the amazing two titles that were EA's The Two Towers and the Return of the King, which were phenomenal action games.
Yeah, they were superb.
So
games.
good, and they hold up to this day. And then this Lord of the Rings Gollum game gives me vibes of that Fellowship of the Ring game.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting as well.
However, I am intrigued because I'd never have thought I would play a game solely based on Gollum, and it looks gorgeous. But yeah, where do you sit with this particular take on our little anti-hero?
I don't really know how to take it at the moment. It could be something that's a bit out, like not kind of your typical what you'd expect from a Lord of the Rings game, and that's brilliant and it leans into it. But I'm not sure I want to play a Lord of the Rings stealth-focused game. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of issue I'm running into. Yeah. I'm
with you a bit there, but I'm thinking if I was to sit down and design a Lord of the Rings game, it wouldn't be this. But anything that actually expands on the canon, or at least brings parts of the canon of the Lord of the Rings and the whole Tolkien verse to a wider audience, I'm kind of for and exploring Gollum as a character in a bit more in depth as you are playing as Gollum, and how if it's set between the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, so he'll be after Bilbo's got the ring off him, and then there's shots of him in Mordor, so it'll be the whole he's went to Mordor, Gandalf and Aragorn found him after he'd been tortured and released, and the whole Shire Baggins thing.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers for a book that was published before I was born.
Yeah.
But I think it could be intriguing. There's parts that actually look quite nice, and there's sometimes I think the character model of what I think is Gandalf looks a bit rough in places.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite have the production values I'd like.
Yeah.
But I think it could be a really cool game.
Yeah.
Especially if they keep it quite linear.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's
don't
focused
go
on stealth
too
mechanics,
big.
which not many games do. It's usually action adventure.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few things I think this game could actually have going for it. One of them is the price point. So it's currently $49.99 or £42 available now. So it's a cheaper entry point. I think it will benefit from having the Lord of the Rings on it. A lot of people out there I don't think will realise it's not Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, and I think that will get a lot of sales out of the renownedness of the name alone. The biggest thing by far, which this has got going for it, gentlemen, is the Amazon's Lord of the Rings series comes out the following day. 2nd of September.
That's definitely no coincidence, right?
The marketing behind Amazon's $500 million an episode season, or whatever the crazy amount of money they're throwing at this thing is, I think just being in the general gravity of that show alone is going to get enough eyes on this game that people are going to go, oh, the show's just kicked off on Amazon. I've got an itch for Lord of the Rings. What have you got? Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, which are a few year old at this point. I think it could slot in right there, and I think it's almost got that, because it is narrative driven, it's got that, you think you're going to get streamers who pick it up on, you're going to get all the world basically hashtagging Lord of the Rings for its entire launch window. I just think it's going to ride that wave. Whether it's a good or bad game, I think it's going to get so many sales just from that alone.
Oh yeah, I think definitely financially it'll do well.
It just needs to be good enough.
Yeah.
As long as people don't come out and going, it's terrible, don't pick it up, I think it's going to succeed.
Yeah, interesting. Because this was the first game announced for PS5, if you guys remember as well. It was like, what the hell, a Gollum game? Next gen only? And then it kind of went radio silent for ages. And then
it's not next gen only.
Here we are.
It's PS4 and PS5.
I think they announced that later on, afterwards. Yeah. So it was like next gen. But yeah, crazy. But we won't have to wait too long. 1st of September, I've got a crazy birthday lineup as a big Lord of the Rings fan this year, guys. I've got this game comes out, and then the Amazon series starts. I think the Game of Thrones were gamers before, and it's my birthday. And The Last of Us remake comes out on my birthday as well. So, fuck knows what I'm going to be playing. I might just eat cake.
Everything by the sounds of it.
Eat cake and get drunk instead. Right, final few stories of the week, just wrapping up quickly. The Division 2 has received a further update, making it 5 years of content for The Division 2, while Ubisoft decide what they want to do with the future of the franchise, whether that be at Ubisoft Forward or Gamescom later this year. We do know we have The Division Heartlands, but that does not stop The Division 2 from getting extra content. Season 10, due in late August, will have a new feature called Manhunt, refreshed gear events, additional countdown difficulties, new legendary strongholds, and other quality of life improvements. With Season 11 due in early December, we'll add more additional content, fresh game modes, more gear, and more quality of life improvements. And then pushing into 2023, which will be the 5th year, they've also promised more content as well, but they've actually not told us what that is. But yeah, launch back in March 2019. Plenty to play on, and Ubisoft keep revisiting The Division, as it seems to be one of the more beloved of the Tom Clancy franchises. And I know we covered it on the Sounds of Stadia podcast a few months back, Richie, but X-Defiant lost the Tom Clancy moniker when they rebranded it a few months later, so Tom Clancy fits within Division in my mind. I don't think we'll see another Breakpoint or Wildlands anytime soon.
Not yet.
So I think, this announcement alongside a mobile game announcement, because they also announced The Division for mobile coming soon. Nice to see them still chipping away at it while they figure out what the hell they want to do with The Division. Not much more to add on that one. And our final 2 stories for the week. Don't know if you gentlemen remember this. Lollipop Chainsaw, from way back in 2012, is getting a remake. So talk about milking an old cow, I guess, in a weird... that's a weird way to put it. Milk an old cow?
Yeah, that's
not the phrase. Lollipop Chainsaw. I remember one of my friends really raving over this game. It's basically like a beat-em-up zombie game, but with a typical American blonde cheerleader. And it's getting a remake from its PS3 and Xbox 360 counterpart. Did either of you two play this?
No, I can imagine... Oh, really?
Tell us about it, Rob.
It was fine for what it was. It didn't pretend to be high art or some kind of, like.
I mean,
in-depth
the main
story.
character is clearly overly sexualized.
Yeah, it was just a dumb game. And I'm surprised it's getting. I'm very surprised it's getting remade.
It feels like it feels like one of them franchises where, like, in this day and age, you're looking at, what game should we remake? This is going hard pass, not worth the controversy.
No, it's cool. It's cool to be anti-woke now. Okay, so maybe that's what they're trying to.
That's what this strikes me, Richie, is the game the Embracer Group would pick up and they dish out to like some kind of THQ Nordic AA developer and go, polish it as best you can. And we'll just purely get it either, like you said, Rob, out of the sexuality nature or the going against the grain. But yeah, originally developed way back, like I said, in 20... It's actually 10-year-old nearly when it's finally due to get released. But the script was worked on by none other than James Gunn. It will interest you to know.
That kind of checks out.
Yeah. Well, even just watching the trailer, I get big the Deadpool
There's
game
a lot
vibes.
of upscare shots in that trailer.
That's how you get people in, Richie. That's how you get people in.
In 2012, that's how you got people in.
There's a lot of
in
thirsty
2022,
gamers.
Maybe not so much.
I think it still has the same effect. But either way, it didn't warrant a sequel. It got mixed reviews at launch. And here we are, 10 years later, Lollipop Chainsaw Remake confirmed for 2023. So it's the director's cut.
It's so bizarre.
It's not... How could... When I read this article, I had this thought. I was like, how can it be a director's cut? If, like, a director's cut of a movie is typically... We've had the theoretical release of the film. It's been cut down so it's not overly long for people. Think of the Lord of the Rings initially, and then the director's cut is this is the actual director's actual vision of it. You might be sat there for 4 hours. Like, how can you do a remake be a director's cut?
It's a weird term to use in games, and PlayStation does it a lot. I basically think it's the easiest way to market the best version of it.
Yeah.
Like that, just
It
people
feels like
you
a
see it
game
on a
that they
box
should-
and you just get it. You're like, yeah, I understand what they mean by director's cut, even if they're not involved.
Anyway,
that
it
much.
feels like a game that should just been left as this was a moment in time sort of thing.
Yeah, certainly should. And then the final story, gentlemen, of the week is the PlayStation Plus games. We mentioned them right at the top of the show. We have Stray confirmed coming out later this month in July. But we are expecting to see some additional games on top of Man of Medan, Crash Bandicoot 4, and Arcadegeddon that we talked about on last week's show. 19th of July is Strays, but there has been a rumoured leak that's came out confirming the additional titles that will get added for people on Extra up to Premium, and it's looking like it will be Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, plus the episode intermission, Black Flag, ironically enough, Unity, Assassin's Creed Freedom Cry, Assassin's Creed the Ezio Collection, and Saints Row Re-Elected. So if this is true, gentlemen, it looks like Ubisoft are doing a bit of heavy lifting in terms of the library. No surprise there. Do these games, if true, on top of Stray, do anything for you? I mean, if you want to play Skull and Bones, there's Black Flag there. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah.
I think in terms of value, for the price we're paying kind of for the PS Plus subscription now, it's a good kind of collection, which I think is kind of appropriate. I do wish to kind of sync up the releases each time, kind of that it very much feels like two services mashed together when they do kind of multiple separate releases in them. But no, I think I'll probably jump into some of the old Assassin's Creed titles. But yeah, I think it's a decent list for the first kind of update.
Yeah, there are definitely no bad games in there.
Yeah, the thing I want to know is what part of the service each of these fall on. Which are the like just monthly games? If you don't claim them this month, they're gone. Or which games are just going to be, if you have PlayStation Plus, they're just part of your library now?
I'd assume they're the library, right? Because I guess that's why it's like announcing them separately.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning to. But for something like Stray and Final Fantasy feel like they could just be. I mean, if you went to me, the PlayStation Plus games for August are Stray and Final Fantasy VII, and go, that's a good month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this is on top of Crash Bandicoot and Man of Medan already as well. So
yeah, I mean, I was putting them two games as a hypothetical for next month's Plus games, like your monthly games. But if these are just like, okay, we're just adding them to the library, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, we know the Ubisoft Classics form part of PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium, so if you're on the two top bands anywhere, you're probably going to have a lot to choose from, and I think having Ubisoft as a partner was quite smart in probably fleshing out that library. I think PlayStation want to compete with Game Pass, but not in the way Microsoft were hoping they probably would, by dropping like God of War Day 1 on PlayStation Plus. That ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
However, I think these little smaller interstitial titles like Stray Day 1 is a fantastic get to kind of hype it up for a new game. But then to add in some bangers from the last 10 years of gaming, every other, like, I think the launch library could have been bigger. I think they've specifically held off so they can then just trickle effect it down. So as you said, Rob, the value just looks better and better. If every halfway through the month they're like, oh, remember these 10 games, like whatever it might be, here they are. He's like 6 Assassin's Creed games to just jump back into.
Yeah.
Keeps the...
So it gives them like a news
adding to the library
item as well.
Yeah. Because realistically, what's the difference between, say, 700 and 750 games day one when you could hold back 50 games and drop 5 a month for 10 months?
Yeah. I think it's very clever marketing. And then it gives them time to kind of test the waters and see how it's been received and see if there's like a demand for different types of titles. And yeah, I think it's a good tack to go because, yeah, I don't think we're going to be getting Horizon, God of War, Uncharted day one anytime soon because we've seen what they can mark up for £70 to £100 for giant collector's editions.
They've said they have no plans for that. Yeah. I think eventually you might start to see that happening, but not for quite a while.
Yeah, not anytime soon. I think when you're the market leader, you don't necessarily need to change your tack because
I'm talking minimum probably 5 years before they'd even consider it because of if they did that, then they'd have to basically declare what they've done with PS Plus this time round is a mistake. And I don't think it's a mistake.
No,
to be honest,
just different business practices. All big players in the market right now are doing their own thing, and it's interesting to see how the industry's totally just been fractured and broken up.
Everyone's gone in different directions. For a long time, the difference between Xbox and PlayStation was: do you prefer Halo or Uncharted?
Yeah,
that's no longer a thing. And as we know, with cloud gaming, the better that gets, the accessibility is easier. You can just jump in on the devices you've already got, and for the most part, just pay a subscription fee now. And then if you do want these big day and date titles, then you got to fork out for it. But that's why it's premium AAA gaming. And I don't think Sony can be beat on visual storytelling or gameplay right now, and they sit in that top place throne because of all the work they've done for the last 10 years. So fun times, and we'll be reporting and covering on it every single week right here on Talking the PS. But that's all we have time for on this week's episode. Thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in and watched. Don't forget to give the video a like if you haven't done so already. Click that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content that we bring you right here on Helix Cloud Games, like this very show, like our Sounds of Stadia podcast, where we round up all of the Stadia and video game news for your listening viewing pleasure every single Monday right here on YouTube, and also up there on podcast preferences of your choice. Richie, we also recorded a fantastic episode of CloudQuest where we spoke a little bit more about Tencent this last week. We haven't got the show marked in for this week, actually, but if you're watching out there and you think, I've got a great idea for a topical cloud gaming show, we have a Discord server. The link is in the description below if you want to join the three of us and all of our other like-minded folks over there, talking about video games, life in general, nostalgia, all those amazing things. Do join us. We appreciate having you by. We appreciate our Helix heroes even more. Those are the 50-plus wonderful folks who support the channel, help us bring you, in fact, that extra bit of quality content every single week. But that's it for this show. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
We've been Helix Cloud Games, talking the PS. Remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest, and we'll see you on the next one. Happy gaming. Goodbye.
Bye.